Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Mavidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace and beneficence be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Well, good morning, everyone, and namaste. A couple of announcements. Yesterday was Seva Saturday for this month. Thanks to those 6 devotees who braved the weather and got a lot done around the center, made us much more presentable to our neighbors, and I thank them very deeply. Please be among their number for our next Seva Saturday. That'll be announced in the newsletter and on the website. I'm not sure we're going to have one in December, but we'll let you know. In any event, we will not celebrate Thanksgiving with a gathering of the congregation this year. We continue on lockdown. The virus and its new variants are still too great a risk. So those are the 2 announcements that I have. Does anyone else have anything that should have been announced that wasn't? All right. Again, welcome. November is a month for study of Bhakti Yoga. A Bhakti yogi, a bhakta, establishes a devotional relationship with God through study, prayer, ritual, and worship. This often begins with a feeling of reverence or awe, which may slowly grow into a conviction that everything, without exception, manifests God's power, glory, and grace. As a bhakta, you practice giving every action, thought, emotion, perception, and tendency a Godward turn. All your energies and attributes, both positive and negative, are offered to the divine presence. Your prayer is for self-surrender and ultimately union with your beloved. That's the definition of a bhakta from here. As I've been saying each week now, what you're about to hear is not meant as personal instruction for you. If it's said with conviction, that simply betrays my belief in it, the fact that I know what I'm saying. But that does not mean I'm trying to persuade you of anything. I'm not trying to sell you anything or convince you of anything. I'm simply presenting these ideas as a representation this month of a bhakta's way of going about or thinking about certain things. So please receive it in that spirit. Take from it what you wish, if anything at all. The topic this morning is thoughtful, thorough, complete instruction from Holy Mother. The affectionate term Holy Mother refers to Sri Sarada Devi. She was Sri Ramakrishna's wife and spiritual counterpart and his first disciple. She lived from 1853 to 1920. After the master passed away in 1886, Holy Mother carried on his ministry, serving as inspiration and guide for his new monastic order, the Ramakrishna order, and for her disciples, believed to be more than 2,000. Holy Mother apparently had more than 2,000 disciples. Holy Mother was the ideal disciple, nun, wife, mother, and teacher to her many spiritual children. The Master said that she was an incarnation of Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge, music, art, wisdom, and learning. Yet Sri Sarada Devi did not write books or play a musical instrument. Instead, Holy Mother served others so simply and humbly that many took this mistress of the universe to be an ordinary village woman. And this is absolutely the case. Many people just saw nothing other than this woman who, like a very devoted but nevertheless ordinary village woman, served her family, her relatives of various kinds. And of course, then they began to wonder why so many people were coming to see her in Jairambati, her home village, and taking initiation from her and so on. But they still didn't see anything extraordinary about her themselves. It was really quite a story. It's told very lovingly and in great detail in Swami Chaitanananda's book, Sri Sarada Devi, Her Divine Play. Inwardly, Holy Mother regarded the whole world as her own, as her own, and every living being, not just human beings, but every living being as her child. Holy Mother loved and accepted everyone without exception. I'm going to repeat that. Holy Mother loved and accepted, in fact, embraced everyone without exception. Many of her close disciples recorded their conversations with her. You can find great solace in the assurances they left us and in Mother's teachings on Mother's teachings are on how to live life as a work in continuous progress. That's how she saw it. That's what we'll talk about this morning. So I'm going to read that again. Many of her close disciples recorded their conversations with her. You can find great solace in their assurances, the assurances they left us, and in Mother's teachings on how to live life as a work in continuous progress. That's our topic for this morning. We'll start with this short poem. Hurrying fingers fumble. A hurrying mind may forget, neglect. Be calm and thoughtful, thorough and complete, our Mother said. Hurrying fingers fumble. A hurrying mind may forget, neglect. Be calm and thoughtful, thorough and complete, our Mother said. Sri Sarada Devi was a mother to her direct disciples, certainly. Yet listen to what she said about her relationship with you and me right now. Listen to what she said about her relationship with you and me right now. My child, you are my own. Truly, you are my very own. A disciple asked, Those who receive your blessing now are fortunate indeed. What will happen to those who come later? Holy Mother, what do you mean? Shall they not receive it? God is everywhere, all the time. There is the Master. By his mercy, everything will be done. Is it not so even in other countries? These are her assurances to us about her relationship. As our mother, she quite naturally left instructions on how to live life as a continuous work in progress. As our mother, she quite naturally left us instructions in how to live life as a continuous work in progress. Here's a summary of what she said. Always be busy, but don't let life's demands make you frantic. Always be busy, but don't let life's demands make you frantic. Work calmly and methodically. Begin each day thoughtfully. Consider what needs to be done that day and how to do it. Then at the end of each day, review what was accomplished and what remains to be done. And when you work, be thorough and complete. When you do something, don't do it halfway. Don't do it approximately. Be thorough. And this was true of Mother, whether she was cutting vegetables, whether she was cooking, whether she was doing the worship, whether she was sweeping the courtyard. She was very thorough, and she completed each task and insisted that those who were working with her and close to her and received her instructions were the same, that they did not do things in a half-baked way, halfway, that they do them thoroughly, and that they do these things completely. So before I go on, is there anything that anyone would like to add from their own wisdom or experience about having read or heard or seen Holy Mother, or anything that any concern that you have about any of this, or any question you'd like to ask? Anything at all from anyone?
I'd like to, I was just listening to what you were saying and seeing it and imagining her, doing these various things in this way. And it's, Mother was a Zen master.
No question. She was, but she like a true Zen master. The true Zen master, you wouldn't know they were a Zen master by looking at them. You'd have to watch them very carefully to see. There's a wonderful Zen koan about that particular thing. But you're right, Mother was indeed a Zen master. If she swept the courtyard, it was so carefully done. There was not one, and it didn't matter if the leaves fell again as soon as she had swept them up. It didn't matter if the wind blew some things in. No, when she was finished sweeping, it was spotless, it was thorough and complete. And she did it calmly and methodically, never in a hurry, never in a rush. Thank you, Cindy. You have a very good observation. Anything else from anyone? Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, sure can.
Okay. I just experienced both extremes. My father is in very bad health and has Alzheimer's, and I go up every quarter. I'm also getting in charge of all his finances. the summer trip was wonderful because I was meditating every night in my room, and we needed to move him from a regular apartment to assisted living side of the same building. And we had to do it in a week because my other sister was completely burned out. But I was just meditating and everything fell into place. The movers showed up, the people in the, the staff, everything just fell into place. Then I went back last week. I got a cold the day before. I had to wear a mask the whole time. The election, every night instead of meditating, I was like, oh my God, what's happening? What's happening? And I had a lot, and I couldn't think. My head was completely stopped up. Yet I had to deal with this man who get him in a wheelchair to take him to the neurologist, get him out of the wheel, and also he can't hear. And I was trying to get him approved on one bank to get him verified so I could talk to him, so he could give. They wouldn't let me repeat the security questions. So I just lost it. And then I began to, my mind began to clear a little bit, but going the flight back, I got it again. It came back, and I had so many things to do when I returned. I realized yesterday I was in meditation. I realized I'm just exhausted. I have nervous exhaustion. But the only difference was, I guess, that it's gone. It's like I'm not judging myself for not being that high spiritual person I was when I went in the summer. It was there, and now that's gone.
Well,
So,
it's
and
so
I'm
good.
sleeping.
It's so good that you can see it that way, dear, that it arises and passes away. And life's demands will take a toll on us. We're not all going to be like Holy Mother. Holy Mother was the mistress of the universe. She lived at the fifth chakra. She didn't live between 3 and 4 like most of us. And so she was able to bring, but she set an example, and it's good for us to be mindful of the example and follow her instructions to the best of our ability. But you said something so very important. You were not beating yourself up about this. You were being self-loving and self-forgiving, as she would have been. She would have consoled you. She would have been every bit of help that she could be to you in this circumstance. And as a matter of fact, one can say that she was in the background because she's always there, as she will tell us as we go through the assurances that we'll read about her, that she's always there. So good for you in both instances. And you're a blessing for your father. There's no doubt about that. Thank you for telling us that story. Thank you for sharing yourself with us. Anything else from anyone about these instructions of mothers and what we can do and be and have been in the circumstances that have been described?
Well, can everybody hear me?
Sure.
I'll comment on something Kim said that really touched me. One of my teachers recently went on a news fast, meaning that he just spent zero time looking at the news. And it inspired me. I'm not on a complete news fast, but I did notice during the election, I was much calmer because I looked at headlines, but I limited the amount of time that I spent looking, the amount of time that I spent reading, the time of day that I did it. And I feel much more relaxed.
Very good.
The news can be just one more addiction, one more thing designed to pull my attention, into the news, which is basically driven by advertising to try to get me to buy more stuff. My time is better, more productively spent doing any number of things, such as meditation, rather than looking at the news.
Yes, very well said, Tom. And as always, thanks for sharing yourself with us. As Walt Whitman said, apart from the pulling and hauling stands what I am. Apart from all the world's pulling and hauling stands what I am. And it's such a beautiful, but it's in his poem, Song of Myself. You can find that. If you just type in those words, apart from the pulling and hauling, stands what I am, Walt Whitman, it'll come up. It's a beautiful, beautiful poem. If you'd like, send me an email, I'll send you that section of that poem. It says essentially what Tom was saying, but Whitman had such a wonderful, dramatic poetic way of saying things that it's very inspiring. As what Tom said is. Anything else? A news fast. I love that term.
It just made, when Tom was saying, and it's just another thing, it made me think of Nisargadatta's, it's just a thing among things.
Yes, exactly. All right, we'll go ahead. With regard to these instructions, Holy Mother saw no difference between the routine work of your daily life and your spiritual practice. It was just a continuum as far as she was concerned. You do work as worship, and you do your worship as a special kind of work. But that's the only distinction. You do your work as worship. You do it in the ways it was described, calmly, thoughtfully, thoroughly, completely, because that's how you would do worship. And then you do your worship in that same spirit. So she saw no difference between the routine work of your daily life and your spiritual life. Here are a few of Mother's reassurances to us, assurances and reassurances. First, she talks about the relationship with the divine being as it was represented by Sri Ramakrishna. He or she who has really prayed to the Master even once has nothing to fear. Let me repeat that. This is the Mother of the universe speaking to us about all it takes to rid yourself of fear, if you can believe it, if you can have the faith and conviction in it. He or she who has really prayed to the Master even once has nothing to fear. Really prayed means prayed from the heart, of course. By praying to him constantly, one gets ecstatic love. In Sanskrit, prema bhakti. By praying to him constantly, one gets ecstatic love through his grace. This prema, my child, is the innermost thing of spiritual life. This ecstatic love of the divine. Now, this is from a bhakta's point of view, of course. She's speaking from the bhakti perspective. For a bhakti, this prema is the innermost thing of spiritual life, because it will lead to that union with the Beloved. So to do this, to facilitate praying constantly to the Master, or to whatever your Ishtadevata is, but she's speaking specifically of Sri Ramakrishna, keep a picture of the Master before you and know for certain that he is always with you. She saw no difference between the name Sri Ramakrishna the picture of Sri Ramakrishna and the being itself or himself. She said, name and form and the substance are one and the same. Name and form and the substance are all one and the same. Shed tears and sincerely pray, O Lord, draw me toward you. Give me peace of mind. O Lord, draw me toward you. I'll start that again. Shed tears and sincerely pray, O Lord, draw me toward you. Give me peace of mind. Have devotion to the Master, and whenever you are in distress, have devotion to the Master, and whenever you are in distress, speak it out to him. Because why? Because her assertion is, you will receive solace. You see, she's speaking to a particular disciple, you see, my son, it is not a fact that you will never face dangers. Difficulties always come, but they do not last forever. You will see that they pass away like water under a bridge, just as Kim was telling us earlier. She saw that though things got very difficult and very even frantic, it all passed away, as Mother says, like water under a bridge. And Mother says this as her flat down promise. And now she's speaking. Remember that the Master and the Mother are one and the same being in two forms. She says, I shan't be able to turn away anybody if she or he addresses me as Mother. I shan't be able to turn away anybody if she or he addresses me as Mother. If anyone begs me by calling me Mother, I shan't be able to contain myself. If anyone begs me by calling me Mother, I shan't be able to contain myself. I know whether you are making spiritual progress or not. How can you understand it? You achieve everything. You will achieve everything. You will achieve everything. I know whether you are making spiritual progress or not. How can you understand it? You will achieve everything. You will achieve everything. And that is by her grace, by his grace, her grace, because what they said, and this was repeated by Vivekananda and Brahmananda, their two principal disciples that we know so well. They said, don't worry yourself about doing very austere spiritual practices. We have done all that for you. And then Mother goes on, most obstacles in worship are not external, they are internal. They will gradually fall off, one after another, by taking the Master's name and by meditation. Do your duty. Don't pay any attention to whether the blemishes of the mind are persisting or not. Now, this is such a potent instruction to us. We worry so much. Oh, I continue to have these bad thoughts. I continue to be distracted by the things of the day. Mother calls this blemishes of the mind. There just are some scars. That's what she's speaking of, are some scars that continue to revisit us. Why? Because they're brushed by the gunas. The gunas activate them. Jill Bolte Taylor calls them neural loops. Something touches that neural loop and it does its loop. Hmm? So what she's saying is pay no attention to it. Hmm? Most obstacles in worship are not external, they are internal. They will gradually fall off, one after another, by taking the Master's name and by meditation. This is japa, taking the Master's name. The Master goes by many names. If the name that appeals to your heart is Christ, that is the name that you should chant. Whatever the name is, that is the name. The Master is one with all of those. She'll speak to this in a few minutes, we'll read on. But she said these distractions will gradually fall off, one after another, by taking the Master's name and by meditation. Do your duty. This is to say, your worldly duty and your spiritual duty. Don't pay attention to whether the blemishes of the mind persist or not. So, having said those things, is there any comment, concern, or question about any of what Mother has said? And what is your reaction to this, to what she said, and how?
Brother
Yes, please.
Gaurav here.
Yes, Gaurav.
I have realized, like, when you're in the tumults of Maya, a lot of things happening to you. I think the first one of the best things that at least works for me is I got to say that I am the most important person to myself. I have to focus on myself.
This is exactly right, Gaurav. This is exactly.
And the only one who owns me completely is pretty much myself.
Well, as long as we have that I consciousness, that's absolutely true.
And
Yes.
things settle down, and you know what you got to do after that. Means that's it. Just concentrate on you.
And what does that mean to you, Gaurav? What does it mean to concentrate on you?
Realize that the divine is inside. Means seek Mother who is already inside you. Just reach out to her and you own me, Mom. Means this is, you just own me. That's it. I'm yours.
That is the highest ideal, no doubt. But as Swami Ranganathananda points out in Divine Grace, his book Divine Grace.
Yeah, the one I got yesterday.
We start with something more basic than that. We start with what, if you read his book, will remind you nothing more than Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yes.
We start with fulfilling our human potential by being everything we can be, by finding that which gives us energy, zeal, makes us want to get out of bed in the morning and get to work. Finding our energy, our zeal, or as Joseph Campbell said, your bliss, follow your bliss. And it may not be a spiritual goal or ideal. As a matter of fact, the Swami says it's very unusual for that to be. Ranganathananda says it's very unusual in the beginning of a human being's life for that to be their ideal. They have this wonderful skill set that they were born with. As the Lakota and Dakota elders, who are women, say, you were born for this time. You brought a package of skills and capabilities and so on. And it has both a material and a spiritual aspect. They're not different fundamentally. There is no line of demarcation where the world of matter ends and the world of spirit begins. It's a spectrum. But this is exactly what the Swami is pointing to. In the beginning, fulfill that material thing. Become the very best at what you've been given. Give that full rein. Find out what it is that you really want to do, and then do it for all you're worth. And then the Swami says, when the Lord taps you on the shoulder and says, I have something greater to show you, follow me, then you have something to renounce. Then you can say, all right, I'll set that aside and follow you, as Jesus said. I shall make you fishers of men. Come and follow me. And as Swami Vivekananda said, first conquer poverty, then conquer football. Then you may play the game of the Gita. First, learn how to keep the wolf from the door by conquering and this is the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Learn how to keep yourself in food, clothing, and shelter without having to worry about it from day to day. Then learn how to play the game of life. This is the metaphor of Vivekananda saying football. He used that as a metaphor for the game of life. Complex, demanding. You both have to be an excellent team player and an excellent individual player. Making decisions, as Gaurav was pointing out, making decisions about what you're going to do. All right. So then, having mastered those two things, then you can understand what the Gita means when Krishna says, be a full-blown woman in the spiritual sense, be a full-blown man in the manly sense. So then we understand what is meant by these demands of spiritual life. But you'll notice...
Brother, yes, and even if you say it out loud that the divine is within me, that brings a ton of confidence. Means you, in the lowest of your times when you're struggling, if you say that out loud to yourself,
yes,
it just...
Gaurav, but you believe it. You
yes,
have
I believe, yes, you have to believe it. You can just...
Many people do not. They do not really have that. They believe in themselves. They start with the fact that I am. All right, what does it mean to be I am? And so Swami Ranganathananda tells us, be everything that this package that you came in allows you to be. Fulfill it and just give it free rein. Be willing to make mistakes. We learn by doing. We learn by doing. We do not learn by thinking about it sitting in the corner. So, and we certainly do not learn how to play the game of life by sitting in the stands and watching others play it. We can learn something about what the game is, but we won't learn how to play the game. So thank you, Gaurav. Again, yes, you're absolutely right. For someone who has conviction in it, to remind oneself that the divine and all the power of that is within me.
We conveniently call it infinity at times. The infinite power means there's the immeasurable. We don't know what it is.
So yes, as Chaitanya says in his prayer, chant the name of the Lord and his glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quenched that mighty forest fire, raging furiously within. Various are thy names, O Lord. In each and every name thy power resides. By that there is no, as Gaurav just pointed out, that power, and we have no idea what this means, but that power is without limit. It is omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient. So when we
Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, as
yes, as the Christians say.
Yeah.
So all these things are there. So anyone else, anything before we go on?
Often I use like if like many times I observe that my mind gets sort of submerged in the quicksand of sticky worldliness, and then I discovered that, you know, I, I I tend to sort of repeat in my mind sometimes to get out of that Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya, and sort of imagine.
Please tell those of us who don't know what that means. Please tell us, Rajiv, what those words mean.
So it's like God or Brahma or the ultimate is real, and all this world is an illusion.
Yes.
And when I am in my highest spirits, I will actually debate with a person who says that. But I myself say that when I'm sort of stuck in the quicksand and I want to get out of it.
Yes. As Mother points out, I didn't say this earlier, but the idle mind is the devil's workshop. She didn't say those words, but that's what she meant. That's our Western folk saying. The idle mind is the devil's workshop. And so what overcomes that? This is what she meant by be always busy. Rajas, activity, the projecting power overcomes the restraining or concealing power. And so when we're in that quicksand of tamas, so then but then even higher than that, which is what you were pointing at, Rajiv, is rajas. Is sattva. So when we think a sattvic thought, when we replace a lower samskara, a lower thought, with the highest thought, the revealing power of sattva, then something happens. But we must act. We must be in action. This is, as Sri Krishna points out in the Gita, this is the karma bhumi. This is the world of action, the field of action. So anything else? And this is what Mother points to over and over. Stay active.
Brother Shankar?
Yes, Bhagarat.
You made several points which really need to be thought over and over again. Let me briefly recapitulate the way I understand.
Please.
That mother is not a body. Mother is a spirit.
Yes.
Therefore, it is not a gender-related term.
Yes.
It is very well known that many fathers intrinsically have been mothers. For example, for Gandhiji, the book written by his niece, Bapu, my mother, not Bapu, my father, Bapu, my mother. So this motherhood is a spirit which anyone can encase, anyone can nourish, and anyone can practice.
Yes.
So once that is established, the second thing which you say, quoting Swami Vivekananda, that there is a Sanskrit saying, Ashaktiman bhavet sadhuhu. When you are incapable of doing anything else, you become a monk. And that is the reason why Swamiji said, play football.
Yes.
Self-sufficient, because he did not want weaklings to be spiritual.
No.
Not only they will not be able to spread spirituality, actually they would retard the force of spirituality.
Yes.
Many of them. And therefore it is very important to gather our own strength. Now when we gather our own strength, where, like I think Rajiv said, that the most important thing is you. But when you say you, that you, Y is lowercase, it's not uppercase. When you say I is a lowercase, not an uppercase.
Mm-hmm.
The uppercase I is synonymous with mother, because we are walking on the strength of a maternal spirit. We, all of us. That's why I gave you the example that when the soldiers from the World War were interviewed, those from Japan said, We started out the war by saying, "Hail to the King of Japan." But when we are dying on the battlefield, "Mom, Mom, where are you?"
Yes.
This is our eternal demand, our eternal reliance on a factor called mother. That is why Shankaracharya, even after being a monk, when he found out that his mother is dying, he says, "I want to serve my mother." And the other monk said, "Now you cannot touch a woman because now you are a monk. It will be unholy to touch a woman's body." He says, "I'm not touching a woman, I'm touching my mother."
Yes. Exactly. Exactly.
So I think as we go further and further into the deliberations about mother, we have to understand, we have to pass beyond. That's why even in the Chandi, the last thing, Ya Devi Sa Bhuteshu Bhranti Rupena Sansita. If you think mother is a body, sorry, you are illusioned.
Yes. No, she is the all-pervading Shakti.
There is all pervading Chetana, Shakti, or whatever name you want to give that.
Yes. She is the all-pervading energy of being itself. And that's why, as you said, it's not gender specific. It's not gender specific. Although Vivekananda did say that there is a power in the universe and she thinks of herself as feminine, and her name is Kali. Those are the words he said. So it's interesting to hear these thoughts come from different directions. And as you said, Vivekananda said other things, and he would have loved this quote from Walt Whitman when Walt Whitman was accused in his book, Leaves of Grass, of contradicting himself. He said, "I contradict myself? Very well, I contradict myself. I contain multitudes." And so this is the truth. Limitation is just an imagination of our minds. And so we must not be trapped in any limitation. The goal is independence, kaivalya. And by the way, it was Gaurav who was talking about the small eye and the big eye. Rajiv also contributed, but it was Gaurav who brought up that subject. And it is very germane to his own life just now. So anything else from anyone before we go on? All right. Those who have come here and think of the Master will certainly see their chosen ideal one day. If they are not able to do so during their lifetime, they will at least have his vision at the moment before their death. Now, this is the mother's flat-out promise. It has been repeated by all of the senior swamis with whom I've discussed it. They have affirmed this. Those who have come here and thought of the Master, and the Master may go by the name Jesus, the Master may go by the name Rama, the Master may go by the name Krishna, the Master may go by the name of Buddha or Muhammad. Praise his name. Those who have come here and think of the Master will certainly see their chosen ideal one day. If they are not able to do so during their lifetime, they will at least have his vision at the moment before their death. What a stupendous promise. We have, as she said earlier, as was quoted earlier, we have nothing to fear if we take the Master by whatever name we know the Master, by whatever form or formless aspect appeals to our heart. If we take refuge there, this is what we can expect at the time of our death. Disciple, Mother, do you come with all the incarnations? Mother, do you come with all the incarnations? Holy Mother, yes, my son. So this is who we're speaking about this morning. That one who, taking feminine form for purposes that are suited to that time, Mother Mary was very different than Sri Sarada Devi in many ways. On the other hand, she wasn't so different. She was an humble village woman, though she was the mother of God. So this is the same mother. Do you come with each of the incarnations, with all the incarnations? Yes, my son. That was her simple answer. This is who we're talking about. So, is there anything else from anyone?
Brother, Gaurav again.
Yes, Gaurav.
So I'm thinking, like, if you give all your activities a Godward turn and you give everything to Mother that you're doing, you will always automatically pursue the higher truth in some capacity. So you'll always be trying to do good. You'll always try to detach from materials. It's automatically it almost happens, I think, if you start doing that in life.
Yes, but that is a very difficult thing to do sincerely and as a life practice. You described the highest ideal, that giving yourself, self-surrender to the divine, and to give everything a Godward turn. That's a little different. What Swami Prabhupada meant by that was, think of everything in terms of the divine. Think of everything in terms of the divine. So find some way to think about it. That's a left mind activity. Give everything a Godward turn. It becomes deeper and deeper and deeper, and then finally surpasses the left mind. And this is that formulation that was given to us by Swami Sridharananda. We start with I am. Then something happens that gives us this sense of awe or reverence. And we say, oh, I am and thou art. But first we have this sense of I am. And that I am, of course, is a limitation. But that's the package we came in. That is the Stardust spacesuit, a package of limitation. Though it isn't ultimately so. So what you've described is, there's two parts. The giving everything a Godward turn, and then beginning to see everything in terms of the divine in a much deeper sense, and seeing that the act, and so offering your every action to that. Thank you for that, Gaurav. That's you're right. I just wanted to parse those two apart.
Thank you, brother.
So that it doesn't seem an insurmountable task. Because it does seem. I mean, I've heard from any number of devotees over the time. This highest ideal is too high. And the answer is simply, don't start with the highest ideal. Just start with something simple that you can do. And one of the things that we can do is find our zeal, find our bliss, and pursue that, and pursue it with both hands, even though it doesn't seem outwardly a spiritual task. This is what I said. Holy Mother did not see any difference between the routines of daily life and the fulfillment of your human potential and spiritual practice. She saw no distinction whatsoever. Anything else from anyone?
I've been reading Swami Prabhavananda's Realizing God, and interestingly enough, I'm on the chapter on Sarada Devi right now, and apparently he met her when he was like 14 years old.
Yes, he did. And he then, when he was in college, she would be visiting in Calcutta, and when he was in college, he'd become seized by the revolutionary ideas of India, and was participating in a very clandestine way, a very secretive way, in the revolutionary movement of that time, which was in the early teens, of course. And but he still used to go, and when Mother would have her darshan days, the days when devotees would line up and they would all go, and she would be veiled so that they couldn't see her, but her feet would be sticking out so that they could touch her feet. And the Swami said, I didn't do this for any spiritual reason at all. I did it because I got the most pleasant kind of electric shock from touching her feet. And he talks about this in that book, Swami Prabhupada, Light to the West. He mentions this. And he's very sincere. When he was in those university days, he didn't have any, he said, I'd left all spiritual ideas aside. I thought they were secondary to the revolutionary ideal. And, but still he would go see her and get this electric shock many weeks. So yes, he did meet Holy Mother. And she gave him her blessing from the very first time she saw him, when, as you said, when he was 14 years old. Thank you, Ramadas, for bringing that up. All those little stories about Swami Prabhupada, of course, are very dear to my heart. Anything else from anyone?
Brother Shankar?
Yes, Bhagarat.
In relation with your last sentence, Swami Prabhupada, in the current issue of Khabar magazine, there is an article on Bhagavad Gita. And also I forgot his name, but he's the same one who came to us to speak on Vedas and things like that, with a big book on that one.
Mm-hmm.
And he mentions that he was turned to Gita by Swami Prabhupada.
Uh-huh.
So I thought, as a disciple of Prabhupada, you will be very happy and proud to hear that.
I am happy and proud to hear that. So many people have been brought to the path of spirituality by their exposure to Swami Prabhupananda's Gita. It became a New York Times bestseller when it was published, and it was very highly praised and critically acclaimed. And so many people read it. And many of them then found their way to Swami Prabhupada because of his translation of that book. There's very little commentary in it. It's just, what did Krishna say, is accurately portrayable. There is no such thing as translation from Sanskrit. There's only interpretation of what was said. And so Swami Prabhupada worked on that very hard with a really superlatively good writer in English, Christopher Isherwood. And together they found the way to put what Krishna said, what he actually meant, rather than a simple translation from the Sanskrit, which of course is not possible into English. The two languages are far too different, but in interpretation. And then because there was a need for some amplification, particularly to give Krishna's frame of reference, there's an appendix in the back called the Cosmology of the Gita, and then another appendix on the subject of war and people's objection to Krishna encouraging Arjuna to make war. So there's an appendix on that. But one of the other things that is so interesting about that book is it has an introduction by Aldous Huxley that is all by itself worth your time to read. Swami Prabhupada and the Gita. Thank you, Bhagarat. And I am proud of that. Anything at all? From anyone? All right, my dears. Oh, Mother, you are the all-pervading Devi, who constantly presides over the senses of all beings and governs all the elements. Protect us and the earth with those lovely forms of yours moving about in the three worlds, as also with your exceedingly terrible forms. Don't you reduce to ashes all demonic beings by mere sight? Yet you direct your weapons against them, so that even the inimical ones, purified by the missiles, may attain the higher worlds. Such is your most kindly intention toward them, who are also your children. It is your nature to subdue the conduct of the wicked, but so kindly, so kindly, so kindly. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai, Durga, Durga, Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. And may we go forward. May we be always in the loving and protective embrace of the Divine Being as our Mother and Father. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto us, and beneficence to all beings everywhere. Any final thought from anyone? All right.
Thank you so much, Shankara.
You bet, dear. Always so glad to hear your voice.
Thank you, brother.
You're more than welcome. This is such a joy, as you know, to be together with you this way. The next time we'll have an opportunity to get together is on Tuesday evening when we're studying the life of Holy Mother. As a matter of fact, what we're reading and discussing just now is her final days on earth in 1920. It's very moving and very sweet, and Swami Chaitanananda does a very loving job of telling the story of Mother's passing away from her physical presence with us. It doesn't mean she's gone anywhere. She's with us in her subtle body. No two ways about it. That Tuesday evening, that's what we're studying, and our reader is Haima Naidu, and we have a very, very nice reading and discussion of this book, Sri Sarada Devi, Her Divine Play, presented to us by Swami Chaitanananda. And then on Wednesday evening, of course, we're studying Divine Grace. We're well along in that book, Divine Grace by Swami Ranganathananda. So please join us if you'd care to on Wednesday evenings for the reading and discussion of that group. And our reader is Swayam and Swayam Tyagi. And then on next Saturday, there will be no class. I'm attending a memorial service for one of the devotees who passed away here. So there'll be no Saturday class on the 19th. On the 20th, I honestly don't remember what it is that we're doing on next Sunday. I think it's, I don't remember. So anyway, it'll be in the newsletter, plenty of time for you to find out. Any final thought or comment from anyone? All right, dears. Until next time. To the moon, Alice.